Every evening, Leo left his office at exactly 5:30. For 10 years, he had taken the same route home. Left on Main Street, straight for 8 blocks, then right on Cedar Avenue. He knew every crack in the sidewalk, every storefront, every face that passed him at the same time each day. But one Tuesday, something made him stop. It was raining lightly, and he had forgotten his umbrella. Instead of his usual path, he stepped into a narrow side street to avoid a broken awning that was dripping water onto the sidewalk. He had never noticed this street before. Small old houses with wooden porches, gardens bursting with flowers, a cat sleeping on a windowsill. The rain made everything smell fresh and clean. Leo walked slowly, forgetting that he was supposed to be hurrying home. At the end of the street, he found a small park he never knew existed. 3 old men sat on a bench, feeding breadcrumbs to pigeons. They nodded at him as he passed. Leo nodded back. It felt strange and good at the same time. The next evening, he chose a different side street. This one led him past a bakery he had never seen. The smell of fresh bread filled the air. Through the window, he watched a young woman carefully placing croissants in a display case. She looked up and smiled. Leo smiled back and kept walking. On Wednesday, he discovered a bookstore tucked between 2 apartment buildings. An old cat slept on a stack of books by the door. On Thursday, he found a tiny courtyard with a fountain where children played while their parents sat on benches, talking and laughing. Each evening, Leo walked a different way home. He started carrying a small notebook. He wrote down the things he saw. The house with the blue door where someone always played piano in the early evening. The corner where 2 elderly couples met every night to walk together. The wall where someone had painted a beautiful mural of the ocean. One Friday, he walked past a small cafe with tables outside. A woman sat alone, reading a book and drinking tea. Leo noticed she was there every time he passed the street, always at the same time, always alone. The next week, he stopped. "Is this seat free?" he asked. She looked up and smiled. "It is." Her name was Clara. She was a painter. She came to this cafe because the light in the evening was beautiful and it helped her think about her work. They talked for an hour. About art. About the city. About the joy of discovering small things. Leo told her about his walks. Clara listened with interest. "You are collecting the city," she said. "Like collecting stamps, but better." They agreed to meet again. Over the following weeks, Leo's walks became longer. Sometimes Clara joined him. She showed him things he had missed. The way light fell on certain buildings at sunset. The small carvings on old doors. The patterns in the iron fences around the park. Leo started arriving at work earlier so he could leave on time. His colleagues noticed he seemed different. Happier. More alive. One of them asked him what had changed. "I started walking home," Leo said. "But you always walk home," the colleague said. Leo shook his head and smiled. "No. I used to just move my feet. Now I walk." Spring turned to summer. Leo and Clara walked through the long, light evenings. They discovered a rooftop garden where someone grew vegetables. They found a small music school where they could hear children learning to play violin through open windows. They watched a family of birds build a nest in a tree outside a library. One evening in July, they climbed a small hill on the edge of the city. From there, they could see everything. The buildings, the streets, the tiny figures of people moving through their lives. "This is what I love," Clara said. "All these people, all these small stories happening at the same time." Leo took her hand. "And we are part of it now." In autumn, the city changed colors. Leaves fell on the sidewalks, making everything look golden. Leo and Clara walked through parks where children jumped into piles of leaves. They bought hot chestnuts from a street vendor Leo had never noticed before. They watched the sunset from a bridge over the river. One cold November evening, they walked past a small gallery. In the window, there was a painting. It showed a man walking down a narrow street, a small notebook in his hand. Behind him, the city stretched out in warm colors. The painting was called The Walk Home. Leo stared at it. He turned to Clara. She smiled shyly. "I painted it. From everything you told me. From everything we saw together." Leo couldn't speak. He just held her hand and looked at the painting. It was his city, his walks, his discovery. But in the painting, it looked like magic. That winter, they continued walking. In the snow, the city became quiet and soft. Their footsteps made the first marks on fresh snow. They watched their breath form clouds in the cold air. They warmed their hands around cups of hot chocolate in small cafes. On Christmas Eve, Leo took Clara to see the house with the blue door. For months, they had heard piano music coming from inside. Tonight, the door opened. An elderly woman stood there, wrapped in a shawl. "You're the ones who stop and listen," she said. "I've seen you from my window. Please come in." Her name was Mrs. Hartmann. She had been a concert pianist in her youth. Now she played for herself every evening. She made them tea and played for them. Chopin, Beethoven, simple pieces and complicated ones. The music filled the small house. As they left, Mrs. Hartmann touched Leo's arm. "You reminded me why I play," she said. "Not for audiences. For moments like this." On the way home, Leo understood something. He had spent 10 years walking the same path, seeing nothing. And then one rainy day, he had taken a different turn. Not because he was brave or curious, just because he wanted to stay dry. That small decision had changed everything. The next year, Leo started a blog. He called it The Walk Home. Every week, he wrote about a different street, a different discovery, a different person. People in the city started reading it. They wrote to him about their own favorite places. They sent him photos of things he had missed. Clara kept painting. She painted the bakery at dawn, the bookstore cat, the children in the fountain courtyard, the 3 old men feeding pigeons. Her work became famous in the city. People said her paintings showed them their own home for the first time. On the anniversary of their first meeting, Leo and Clara returned to the cafe. They sat at the same small table. The same light fell across the same street. "Thank you for asking if the seat was free," Clara said. Leo smiled. "Thank you for saying yes." Outside, the city hummed with life. Thousands of people walking thousands of paths. Some going the same way they always went. Others, maybe, taking a different turn for the first time. Leo pulled out his notebook. He wrote down one line. "Every walk is a discovery if you let it be." Then he closed the notebook, took Clara's hand, and they walked home together. Not the shortest way, not the fastest way, but their way. The way they had discovered, step by step, street by street, together. And somewhere in the city, maybe someone else was standing at a crossroads, deciding whether to take the usual path or try something new. Leo hoped they would choose the new path. He hoped they would discover their own city, their own stories, their own walk home, because home was not just a place. It was everything you found along the way.